Hey, we're live. Sorry, I kept you waiting. Looks like it's 6:01 right now, and I am late. Sorry about that. All right, let me cut some stuff off here. I got all these phones and things going off on my desk. We got to get some things rolling. So, welcome to Tuesday Night Live with Spencer Combs, and I am going to. This is going to be a high impact. One of the things I don't think most people realize is that we basically discuss a lot. That we answer the question, how do we create momentum? How do we move forward in spite of ourselves, in spite of our the limitations, the odds? How do we keep moving forward? That's a lot of what we really spend a lot of time on doing. I'm going to show off this really cool mug first. Check that out. Pinky out. All right, we're going to have some fun tonight. But honestly, the title of this tonight, as we move into this, is I call it the key to moving forward, the key to creating momentum, and it's also the corridor for creating absolute endless suffering. So we're going to get into that subject, and to kind of set this up, we're going to be talking about control. I think it's something a lot of people look for, want to create. People want to know what's happening when they get certain. And right now, if you just scroll through your social media, you're going to find a ton of people who are up in arms, or they're bent out of shape, they're suffering, they're in that suffering loop. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about how they created that, and and I'm not just going to leave you with that. I'm actually going to tell you and share with you some stuff in a little bit about how to move out of that. So I had written down a note. Did anybody else notice that there's a government shutdown? Yeah, all this kind of stuff is what just gets everybody all uptight. And when things change and when things are different, that's when people get crazy, right? And I'm not saying it's not anything we shouldn't be worried about or concerned about or thinking about or discussing, but there's some things that you can control and there's things that you can't control. And so that's what we're going to talk about. All right, so I don't have anybody on here live right at this second, so I'm just going to jump right into some of this stuff. Let me tell you real quick, though, before we get into it. What's happening with us here at Spencer Combs Resources. You might not see this as a very big deal of what's going on right now, but I'm telling you, we are cooking some major stuff, and we are cooking with grease. Man, this is phenomenal. So we have done our first hire, and I'm not even going to give you the name yet. I've got someone that I met with for 3 hours on Sunday, and I unloaded and unleashed everything that I had going on. And really, it wasn't even everything. It was just kind of like, here's where I'm at, and here's what's going on. So we sat for 3 hours at a Starbucks, and I shared with her the vision, the desire, the direction, and what we're working on. And she's going to be kind of a secret weapon for me for a little while until I just kind of reveal her one day. We'll probably put her on a video or something, because this fun stuff as we move forward. So we've hired the secret weapon. We're going to be working on one thing specifically that she's going to be helping me work on. Is we're going to be doing a live event. And my goal would be to do one here in the Columbia area. So I live in Columbia, South Carolina. I want to do one here. And then eventually we're probably going to do some, I wouldn't say probably. The intention is actually we're going to do them here. We'll probably do one here in 2019. We'll do some in Charlotte. And we will probably also do one, maybe two down in Jacksonville, Florida, as we start spreading out. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this, because I found that live events are probably the best way to create rapid change in our lives. And when people want to get somewhere, that's one of the ways to do it. So we have an entire program. We've done it before. We've just figured out how to maximize it now and actually get even better results in a shorter period of time. So we're really excited about what we've got going on there. And I got a lot of other things that are also going to get rolled out. So keep an eye on that as we press on. Okay. So let's talk about control. I think a lot of people, we look at this stuff and we go, oh, I don't know. I'm looking for the best way to start this conversation, because it really messes with a lot of people in terms of how they live their life. So let's just talk about this. There's really only one thing you can control. And with that one power, there are things you use that power to control, if that makes sense. So there's really only one thing you can control. I want you to think about this in depth, and I want maybe even write it down. Decision. Your capacity, your power to make a decision. So in Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I got it over here. And there's the 8th habit there, but the 7th habit, 7 habits is over here. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He begins the book in talking about the difference between us and other species of animals, if you will, is the ability to make a decision between stimulus and response. So when something's presented to us, there's a gap between what happens and what we do. And in that gap is the capacity to make a decision. Tony Robbins talks about decision power and the ability. We have to practice and train like it's a muscle, right? So we have to train and create, get better at the ability to make a decision. So decisions are in fact the one thing that you can control. And there are a couple of areas specifically that you can use that power. So before I talk about what you can control, let's talk about what most people, let's talk about the corridor of suffering, okay? Got some people jumping in, so hello, glad you're here. Feel free to ask any questions, write comments as we move along, give us a little like button every once in a while. It makes us know people are alive out there. So anyway, let's talk about the corridor of suffering, right? So we've established that the ability to make a decision is the most powerful thing that you can do. There's the only thing you can control, right? And there's different levels of decision. We're not going to go into that tonight. So corridor of suffering. There's a lot of people that are in it. They're probably they're making poor decisions in 3 specific areas, okay? They're looking to control, manipulate, or change 3 things. Either other people, time, or natural principles. So let's break that down a little bit. People that are suffering, many of them are working on doing their best to really control, manipulate, or change other people. If you do that, that's a recipe for a lot of disappointment, suffering, challenges. It's not going to work. You can't do that. Other people are not your responsibility necessarily. And I'm not talking about the accountability of working with other. That's not the point. When you look to change other people, when you're looking to manipulate other people, when you're looking to create a responsibility out of them, that's not your responsibility. That's not your thing. So that can create suffering. Number 2, your decisions about how you look at time. If you look at the past and you dwell there and you live there and you stay there on a regular basis, if you kept doing that on a regular basis, you're going to create suffering. I recognize that there are things that have happened in people's lives. I could sit here and unload a bunch of stuff that has happened in my life. If we talked about that all day, we would find I would create a tremendous state of suffering. You can't change the past. And by the way, you can affect the future. But if you stay there, you're never going to get anywhere. So your decision around time is critical. That also can create suffering. And then your decision around natural principles. So I should probably create an entire list of these. If you think about it, though, there are some things that are guiding our life that are natural principles. The one I like to talk about the most is in the Bible, it's referred to as sowing and reaping, right? That's a natural cause and effect. People are constantly looking to do something with the expectation of something different happening. What do you think is going to happen? If you spend all of your money and then not have money, you're going to get frustrated by that. You're going to live in a constant state of suffering. Does that make sense? If you don't pour into your relationship like you need to, you're going to get the results from what you sow, right? It's very simple. And those are the 3 major areas that most people really create the corridor of suffering for themselves. They are consistently making poor, negative decisions around people, time, and natural principles. Now, let's talk about how to actually move this forward. Things that you have control over that you can move forward with, that would be the decision power you have on three things. Okay. So number one, your focus. You have ultimate control over your focus. Now, you might not feel like you can focus as well as you want to, but you have the control. What are you deciding? What are you choosing to focus on? That you have a power over, and no one can take that away from you. No matter what your situation is, you get to decide what you're going to focus on in the moment, for your week, for your day, for your week, for your month. What are you choosing to focus on? Make that decision. It's important, because what you focus on, you're going to feel. Fair enough? The second one that we talk about in creating, moving forward, your decision around what things mean. So we actually do a little bit of fun with that, and when I'm speaking in front of groups and I talk about what things mean, the only meaning that anything has is the meaning that you choose to give it. I'm going to repeat that. The only meaning that anything has is the meaning that you choose to give it. So consider the conversation of my grandmother growing up. Okay, let's lighten this up a little bit. My grandmother growing up, she didn't understand why men like to watch American football. Now, the fun thing about that is, of course, tonight is Tuesday. This is Tuesday, and yesterday was the college football national championship. So I live in South Carolina. We got hundreds of thousands of Clemson fans, and probably more now because they won a national championship again. So, of course, all the people are Clemson fans that just, they come out of the bandwagon. I'm not a Clemson fan. I'm a fan of the ACC. But here's my grandmother years ago. She didn't understand it, because to her, in her words, there's a bunch of grown men running around a football field with tight pants on, smacking each other on the bottom. Now, I'm not seeing a whole lot of the smacking on the bottom anymore these days. I'm thinking that might have gotten, I don't know. But here's the deal. That was what it meant to her. And in the context of football, that's actually, it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty normal, right? Great job. However, if I put on a pair of pants and went running into an office somewhere, tight pants, and then a dude or a woman, whatever, somebody walked up behind me and smacked me on the bottom and said, "Great job," that would create all kind of challenges, wouldn't it? See, the meaning is only what we give it. Holding a door, I'm from the South. Holding the door open for a woman, generally here in the South is considered a respectful gesture, right? In other areas, it could be construed as a condescending or a man over woman type situation. I got 3 girls. I know all about the necessity to to help young ladies become independent. And if you meet my daughters, you'll find out real fast how independent they are. So your decisions around what things mean are critical to moving you forward. Does that make sense? So we've talked about what you can't control. Now we're talking about what you can control. For those of you that have jumped in with us, which, by the way, I don't know that other people can see the names that have joined in, but one of them is our secret weapon. Hey, girl. Anyway, so anyway, we're gonna let me finish this off. So the second thing, first thing you can control that moves you forward is going to be your focus. The second thing is going to be your what things mean. If you don't give an empowering meaning to the situation in your life right now, if you can't find a positive meaning or an empowering meaning more specifically, I'm not so much about positivity as much as I am about powerful. So powerful meanings create powerful results. Following that? All right. So then the third thing that you have control over is action or activity. So think about that for a moment. So if you're focused on what you should be focused on, what is it that you want to focus on? Make a decision. Go with it. Commit to it. Make a decision about what it is things mean to you, and then you make a decision about what you're going to do, and then you move forward. Does that make sense? Those are the 3 things you can control using the power of decision. So if anybody's got questions, want to just jump in here, feel free to write out in the comment section. I can see, and I'll be glad to answer. That's the key to moving forward. and I also shared with you the corridor of suffering. So those two things are a big deal. And if you missed all of that, you can always just watch this video because it's going to get posted to the wall here. All right. So I'm going to wrap up with this. I asked my youngest daughter, she's 17. I asked Olivia, I said, hey, I'm not getting a whole lot of questions on my Facebook Live yet. We just got started, right? So I said, let me ask you a question. I said, Olivia, who is someone you admire, and what would you want to ask them? And so she said, do they have to be alive? I said, no, it could be someone that's passed away. Absolutely. She said, I would want to ask, she thought about it for a second, but then she asked, I would want to ask Martin Luther King Jr. He's got we actually honor a birthday of his this month, I believe. So I said, what would you want to ask him? She said, how did he do it? I said, well, do what? What do you want to know? What is it that he did? She said, well, how did he, do the speeches and how did he just keep doing it despite everything? And she was trying to explain it. And here's the simplicity of what she was trying to say. How did Martin Luther King Jr. keep moving forward despite all the opposition that he had going for him? And I would love to know that answer too from him. Here's the question. Here's what I know from my experience with all the people that I've dealt with. No one, of course, that has been at that level. What I do know, though, is that most of the time we're focused on the big accomplishments, right? We all know about his I Have a Dream speech. We all know about, I personally love the speech the night before he was assassinated. The one, I have seen The Promised Land. Oh man, I get chills listening and watching that video. But we know those high points. Most of us don't pay attention to the small, little, constant movements that he made all along the way. So here's a challenge for everybody that's going to watch this, going to see this. You want to move forward. You want to do something important. You want to do something significant with your life in 2019 or with your business. If you were going to take advice from a life like Martin Luther King Jr. or anyone else that maybe you admire, I would want you to break down the conversation a little bit further than just the upper crust of what the major accomplishments. Break it down and see the small, constant wins that person had in their life. And I would also challenge you, go back and look to see, what did they focus on? What did things mean to them? What were the beliefs that they had? And what were their actions? Those are the three things that they could control. They did not look to change, control, or manipulate people. They didn't look to control, change, or manipulate time. And they didn't look to control, manipulate natural principles. All three of those, by the way, are resources. People, time, and natural principles. They're resources. And when you collaborate, when you wrap your arms around people, wrap your arms around the moment, and wrap your arms around the natural principles, you can catapult everything you've ever had, anything you've ever wanted in your life. So I trust that this has been helpful to anyone and everyone, to you specifically, now that you've been here. Thanks for those that have been joining us. And if you got any questions, or if you're watching this after we've gone off live, feel free to ask your questions, because I will probably see the message and still answer you anyway. Okay? So, hey, blue shirt, by the way, Nakia. What you think about that? All right, I'm moving on. Oh, look. Yep. Moving in the right direction. All right. Y'all have a good night, and I will talk to you later. I'm not seeing any responses. Any thumbs up for me? Any thumbs up? Nothing? We're good? All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.